Hi everyone, I'm Tonio Robinson Lloyd, President of the Robinson Lloyd Resiliency Group. In today's presentation, we'd be sharing our 5 W's. Stay tuned. Resilient Stars learn to turn trials into triumph. We're a health and wellness company. Who we are, Resilient Stars learn to turn trials into triumph. Combined, we have 30 years experience in mental health and education. Starting to the left, myself, the president, clinical supervisor, and creator of the Resilient Stars program series. Sean Lloyd, he has his MPA honors. He's a vice president, director of enrichment and events. And he's my husband, my partner, and the person who's been standing with me throughout all of this. And he's actually the first person responsible in creating that meeting opportunity with the executive director that led us to being here today. So many thanks to Sean. We both have photos here with our treasurer, Leah, and the reason why we are driven to do what we do. We also have Dr. Asif. She's our clinical director for the pre-K to grade 2 programs, and she has her licenses in New Jersey. What we do and what makes us the best, and I want you guys to remember, Resilient Stars learn to turn trials into triumph. The benefits of choosing RLRG include data. We collect raw data from our participants. Before we start any Resilient Stars life skills coaching or math tutoring, we assess just where our students are on their wellness score or their math assessment. Then we provide the program, and then we test again at the end of our program to see how well our students have done, how well the program has done. To date, we've had hundreds of students over the past 3 years, high efficacy rates, and the high efficacy means that consistently year after year after year, we've been seeing students increase their grit, increase their self-esteem, learn how to manage depression and anxiety. And because of that, it helps with justifying the cost for our programs, particularly when the executive directors presents it to their boards. We help students to develop core life skills around resilience. The assessments that we do, they're standardized. We use the grit, self-esteem, anxiety, and depression scores. The core life skills that we teach, we have a copywritten, manualized program that we use that's based on cognitive behavioral therapy as well as motivational interviewing. And it helps the students to focus on their self-awareness, mental awareness, emotional, physical. Also, they learn how to focus their attention on what's really important to develop some flexibility and stability of focus. They learn how to let go physically, as well as how to let go mentally. They learn how to access and sustain positive emotions. Typically, our life skills coaching program, we have the wellness score assessment, as we shared earlier. It's about a 30-minute session where we also have the parent and child understander scores. And one really important part of this process is also understanding the child's story. Next, we get into the best program fit as well as the best coaching fit for the child, the student. And those sessions are usually 30 minutes because we do classroom pullouts based on agreed scheduling with parents and teachers as to the best time for the child to be pulled out. And at the end of the program, typically it's 4 to 8 weeks. At the end of the program, we do an assessment again to see just how well we did. Also, a good point to note, parents have requested that their children stay on the program for the entire 10 months period. And depending on the nature of the situation, we have been allowing that. Enrichment services. So we have Mr. Lloyd does the enrichment, 6 minute math assessment, and we look at the grit and the self-esteem of the child as it relates to mathematics specifically. We have 5 to 8 lessons. We have seen improved grades within 5 to 8 lessons. 60-minute math assessment, again, grit and self-esteem scores. So we're not guessing ever. We could always say these were the scores before, these were the scores after. Our group sessions, we have choices workshop. That came about actually from our students. We had developed a series of choices workshops where the students had to analyze typical problematic situations that students may find themselves in, being as adolescents or even elementary school kids. And they had to sort of go through case studies and brainstorm how they would help the particular individual in the case study solve their problem. And later on, that evolved into students saying, look, this is a problem we really have, and we want your help solving that problem. And they got into groups, they organized themselves, they had speakers, they had their own rules, and it's just really, really powerful. They processed their emotions and they solved their own situations that they perceive to be negative. What makes us the best? Resilient stars learn to turn trials into triumph. We're the best because we provide raw data, we use SMART goals, we measure our success, we produce reports for our stakeholders, and we have consistent efficacy. Year after year, student after student, we've been seeing improvements in students' grit, self-esteem, as well as decreases in their original depression and anxiety scores, showing that they have learned how to regulate emotions that produce these feelings. We're just going to take a look at the types of scores that we provide. The elementary school scores, this would be for cycle 1. We have the grit scores to the left. This is the grit, the first bar represents the grit after, and the first bar represents the grit before, the second represents the grit after. Now, grit is a score from 1 to 5. Anything 3 and above would be average. So you see here that the students had above average grit, meaning that they could persevere regardless of how difficult life seemed. These are group averages, right? The grit after showed high grit, 4.1. We also have the depression scores, and that goes actually from 0 to 30. And anywhere 5 and above represents brief depression, 8 and above represents moderately severe depression. This group had moderately severe depression before the program. After the Resilient Stars program, they had minimal to no depression. The anxiety scores, the first represents the anxiety before. Again, this represents moderately severe anxiety. At the end of the Resilient Stars program, they had no anxiety. Self-esteem before and self-esteem after. Before the Resilient Stars program, they had normal self-esteem. 15 to 25 represents normal self-esteem. The self-esteem got to the high end, above 25, after the Resilient Stars program. And this represents the information from our junior high school. The kids, they were already above average grit. They maintained above average grit after the program. They had moderately severe depression before the Resilient Stars program. After the Resilient Stars program, they had mild depression. They had severe anxiety, right? That's a group score before the Resilient Stars program. After the Resilient Stars program, they had moderately severe anxiety. The self-esteem scores, they had normal self-esteem. They maintained normal self-esteem, increasing a bit for their group average score after the program. When and where, right? So of course, due to the current situation, we offer both Zoom or online sessions, remote learning, right? We have different schedules for different schools. We have hybrid learning as well. And So that's a blend of the in-person and the online as per the requirements of your school. Why we do it. Resilience starts learn to turn trials into triumph. We do it because life can be hard. All of us would have experienced at some point something challenging, something difficult. When we experience these things in childhood, it could be particularly unnerving. Learning how to cope with the trials of life a lot faster would build students' resilience and give them the confidence in knowing that they could deal with and manage difficulties of life with greater ease and with the opportunity to just buy themselves some time to make the best decision. Okay, so instead of having a tantrum or being depressed or feeling anxious after something traumatic has occurred, they could now feel, you know what, this is what I could do instead. This is something that I learned. This is something that makes me feel better. And I could learn and grow from this process. We can learn to turn our trials into triumph faster, right? So the skills that we teach are all evidence based, and it's just really miraculous seeing the kids transform at the end of the program. It's been really beautiful. RLRG has proof that our programs work. Their lives are way too important to not rely on data. Our program praise, we have praise from the executive director, students, teachers, parents, and principals. That's because we believe in Kaizen, continual self-improvement. It's a Japanese term that Toyota uses. They just keep building on their process over and over and over again to get towards self-actualization. Our work is one of the heart. The executive director said that they benefited from our work. One parent said that her daughter started doing homework without being told. Students learn greater emotional regulation, a fourth grade teacher. My daughter gained the confidence to ace her high school interview, an eighth grade parent. This company has become an asset to the school as the students loved the providers and felt they could help them solve problems. And that was one of the principles that we worked with. Resilience starts learn to turn trials into triumph. That was a brief introduction to who we are, what we do, and what makes us the best, when we do it, and why we do it. All right, so let's meet to review a proposal that works for you. Book a meeting with us before your next board meeting. You choose the programs that will benefit your students the most. Get the best price on the market. You get an entire team for the price of one person. All right, so you could call myself, Tanya, or you could call Sean. You could email myself, or you could email Sean. We look forward to working with you with deep gratitude. We are grateful for your time and grateful for the opportunity to serve your students and your families. Bye for now.